Okay, so to our last practice problems that we're going to do in lesson 6.2, I believe tomorrow you're going to probably do some review, and then I'm wondering if I think the quiz might be coming up maybe like on Wednesday, but I'll have to double check that after a little bit. Okay, so we have a multiplication problem here, but before we multiply, we need to simplify. So we want to make sure that we really have a multiplication going on. We have x to the 1/3 power being raised to the 3rd power. That has to be multiplied by the 4th root of x to the 4th power. So we're going to simplify each of those first, and then we'll worry about doing the multiplying. So what do we do when we have a power being raised to a power? What do we do with those exponents? Multiplying. So 1/3 times 3. So what's 1/3 of 3?
1.
1. So this becomes x to the 1st power. And then we're going to simplify. Remember, a 4th root means that we can take x to the 4th power, and taking the 4th root is the same as taking it to the 1/4 power. This is exactly what we were doing on Friday, so on the front side of your note. And so what we have is x to the 4th power being raised to the 1/4 power, so we have to multiply those exponents.
X equals 1 again.
And x equals 1 again. So we have our x to the 1st power on this side. The other one becomes x to the 1st power. Garcia, what do we do when we take x to the 1st power times x to the 1st power? What do we do with the exponents?
Would you add them?
You would add them together. So could you do that with us, please?
Yeah.
X to the 1 plus 1 power. So our final answer is x to the 2nd power. Simplifies to x squared. So we simplify each part of our multiplication problem until we finally get it down to where we can multiply. And we were finally to that stage right here. We were ready to multiply. Then we said, well, we got a power times a power. When they have the same base, we can just add their exponents. So make sure you have all that there, because you only have 8 problems to do, and I need to see these steps of work. Okay, anybody have a question on it? Okay, then let's move on to the next one, where again we have a multiplication problem. There's a multiplication dot really in between there. So we have the x squared y to the 1/2 power, that product being raised to the 4th power. Well, what do we do when we have a product to a power?
Multiply.
Well, what has to happen with these? What kind of multiplying is going on here? We have x squared.
Oh, you have to take x squared times y to the 1/2.
No, we can't because they don't have the same
Don't you
base.
just multiply them separately?
We give each of them their own.
X2
X.
times.
Don't we have to give them each of them their own power of 4? Yeah. So we say x squared has to be taken to the 4th power, and y to the 1/2 power has to be taken to the 4th power. And then, so that took care of that first part of this multiplication problem. We had a multiplication within a multiplication. And now we're going to rewrite y to the 3rd root of that as a power. So y to the 3rd power has to be taken to the 1/3 power, right? The 3rd root means 1/3 power. Okay, oh yeah, powers to powers. So x to the 2 times 4 power, y to the 1/2 times 4 power, and y to the 3 times 1/3 power. Power to a power, multiply their exponents. 2 times 4 is? 8. X to the 8th. Half of 4 is? 2. 1/3 of 3 is?
3, 1.
1.
Then you can add the 2 y's together.
And now we've got y's times y's. So we zero in on this part and we say these guys are like bases. So now we can multiply them, and we do that by adding their exponents. So y to the 2 plus 1, seems like I've kind of lost calibration here. Y to the 2 plus 1. And that becomes what then?
X to the 8th.
X to the
Y
8th,
to the 3rd.
y to the 3rd. X to the 8th, y to the 3rd. Okay. So it started out, who would have had any idea that that's what that would have become, but. Okay, anybody have any questions or concerns about either of these problems now before we move on and try our other two? Okay, because we're trying kind of a little bit of every type of thing that we could see happen here. So in our next one, where we have a fraction going on. So we're going to simplify the numerator first, then we're also going to simplify the denominator, and then we're going to worry about the fact that we have a division problem going on here, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is say, I need to simplify this numerator. We have a product, an x squared and a y to the 1/2. That product is being taken to the second power. So what do?
Take them both times 2.
Take them both to that power, not really times 2, but to that power, right? So x squared has to be squared, and y to the 1/2 has to be squared. And then downstairs, we're going to write x to the 10th. That's going to be raised to what power? To the 1/5 power. Okay? So again, we're not going to try and do our division also at the same time here. We're just going to worry about getting all our simplifying done first. So, x to the 2nd power raised to the 2nd power. What do?
Multiply.
Multiply those. So we have 2 times 2. So it's x to the 4th times 1/2 times 2. Y to the 1st. Half of 2 is 1. Downstairs, 10 times 1/5, or 1/5 of 10 is 2. So that becomes x squared. Okay, I want you to think about now, what do you think would be the next move we would make?
Divide x.
Because there's a multiplication upstairs. That's not, if it was an addition or subtraction, then it would be different. But since it's a multiplication upstairs, that either the x to the 4th or the y to the 1st, doesn't matter which one, can be divided by x squared. Or which one can really be divided by x squared?
X to the 4th.
X to the 4th, yeah. So we're going to take x to the 4th and divide it by x squared. So what do we do with the exponents when we divide? What do?
Subtract.
Subtract, yeah. We're actually doing this division right here, and that becomes x to the 4 minus 2 times our y to the 1st. So how we can bring that x squared out of the denominator is divide it with that x to the 4th. So when we divide, we always take the top exponent, subtract the bottom exponent. So we end up with what?
X squared.
X squared
Y to the 1st.
Just
and
y.
y, because we can clean it up and not have that 1 there, right? So x squared y is what we end up with. Okay, anybody have any concerns about that? The trick to it is not to try to do too many things at once. If in reality, even what we're doing here is too much for you at one time, you're like, I would just as soon just worry about the numerator first and not even do anything with the denominator in that same step, don't do it then. The less, probably the fewer things you do within a step, maybe the better track you'll be able to keep of it. Okay. What's the first thing we're going to do in number 8 with that numerator? We want to get rid of that radical sign. How are we going to get rid of that radical sign?
H to the 8th power times 1. how you say, you know.
Don't we have to take all of this that's underneath the radical sign, put it in parentheses, a to the 8th, b to the 12th, that's what we need the fourth root of.
Make the 4 go away.
So how are we gonna make that 4 go away?
Math.
No, with the fraction.
Oh,
Taking the
One
fourth,
fourth.
1/4, yeah. Taking the fourth root of something is the same as taking it to the 1/4 power.
and then you multiply.
Now, but let's not forget about that denominator. We don't want it to get lost along the way, so we're just going to keep dragging it along. Keep dragging it along with us. Okay, and then now we're going to keep working on that numerator. We're going to say a to the 8th has to get that 1/4 power.
Okay, what if you just skip the first step? That's what I did.
Skip the first step. What's the first step to skip?
Like, when you put it all in one big quotation, I did the two separate ones right away.
So like what the step up, you didn't do this part right
No.
here, the a to the 8th, b to the 1/4.
I did what you're doing right now.
As long as you get the right answers, I can go with that. Okay. And downstairs, just gonna stay like it is, right? Just keep dragging it along. And now we're going to simplify. A to the 8th raised to the 1/4 power becomes what?
Into the second.
A to the 2nd, because we have to multiply 8 times 1/4. Levi, you tell me what those b's are going to become. B to the what?
B to the 14.
It's 12 times 1/4. So what's a fourth of 12?
Oh,
3. So it's going to be b to the 3rd, a to the 2nd. You know what? I think I'll put a multiplication dot in between these guys this time. A to the 2nd times b to the 2nd.
Did one of them.
It's multiplication, upstairs and downstairs. There's no addition or subtraction going on, and that's always good news when you're working with simplifying. Because if there isn't, then you can just say, okay, these a squareds just need to be divided by the other a squareds, and these b cubed just have to be divided by these b squareds, right? So we're really going to have a to the 2 minus 2 power, because we're dividing these guys first of all. So we're getting rid of the fraction part. We're doing our dividing right now. A to the 2 minus 2 power times b to the
2 or 3 minus 2.
3 minus 2 power,
You get B.
and you get, this becomes a to the what power?
First.
No, 2 times
Zero.
2 minus
Zero.
2 is 0. And b to the 3 minus 2 power becomes
1
b to the first. Okay, let's clean this up. A to the 0 power is what? 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. B to the first is
B.
b.
It's A, B.
And it's not a b, it's 1 times b.
1B.
It's b. We don't even need to put the 1 in front of it, do we? It's just b. Oh, I don't know, my board's going kind of crazy here at the moment. It's not liking me so well. It's, I think, a little bit uncalibrated at the moment, so. Yeah, it doesn't like me at all. There we go, let's try this again. So we had a to the 0 power became 1, b to the first power became b, and now we're going to say that is the same as just good old, see, nice b. It's like a straight stick fancy 6 or something, I don't know, it's a b. My answer for this one is just b. Okay. So, all these properties we learned were important. We have to be able to apply them along the way to help us simplify. And that's what the power properties help the exponent